Bene. La prossima relatrice è Sophia Barna. Vi leggo il titolo ufficiale e poi, come ho fatto prima con Tim, vi racconterò la mia esperienza brevemente di chi è Sophia. Sophia Barna è una psicoterapeuta, esperta in trauma, è anche esperta nel trattamento del trauma con l'utilizzo di una tecnica chiamata EMDR. È anche esperta di studi della coscienza, quasi inevitabilmente, no? Le cose si intrecciano. Anche in questo caso qui l'incontro è stato magico. Quando l'ho sentita al telefono, lo vedrete anche voi appena sarà qui sul palco per condividere la sua conoscenza. Anche in quel caso là, la prima cosa che ho notato e che è inevitabile, è impossibile notare, è questo sorriso immenso che lei offre. Anche lei ha, come si dice in inglese, il cuore sulle maniche, quindi è una persona da un cuore immenso, è una persona con tantissima conoscenza ed esperienza ed ha un modo molto umano di raccontarla e di rendervi partecipe di quello che ha compreso e capito dell'animo umano, e con, diciamo, il bonus di offrirvi degli strumenti pratici, validi, per unire la parte razionale, la parte animica, con consapevolezza, volta alla guarigione dei traumi, alla guarigione delle cose che conosciamo a livello consapevole e anche di quelle che a mano salgono a galla. E il suo intervento è un intervento molto interessante che unisce la tecnica del EMDR, che spiegherà bene di cosa si tratta, e la tecnologia Hemi-Synch, mostrando come insieme questi due aspetti, questi due approcci, aiutino a superare i blocchi emotivi ed a accedere in maniera consapevole agli stati ampliati di coscienza. L'EMDR prepara la mente e il corpo rielaborando il trauma, mentre la sincronizzazione interemisferica tramite la tecnologia Hemi-Synch consente un'esperienza profonda e trasformativa. Tanta roba. Quindi vi presento e introduco Sophia Barna. Grazie mille.
Oh, buongiorno. Oh my goodness, I've been waiting for this moment, and here we are. Here we are. And this morning at breakfast, we were joking with Tim. He was saying that he's going to talk before me, and he's going to prepare the space. He's going to prepare the room. And he certainly did. And the same with Donna and Diego. It's fascinating how, I don't know, the presentations were organized in such a way that they unfold and they build on top of one another. Donna was connecting with a child, and I'm big on the inner child work. My latest book, it's a book of stories for the little one inside, stories to transcend the levels of consciousness. Because as they say, Einstein used to say, if we cannot explain it to a 6-year-old, we don't really understand it ourselves. So stories are such a powerful ways to communicate beyond words. And I will invite you, because we have so many languages, and I see words sometimes, or language, like a container, a glass. But what really matters is what fills the glass. And that feeling, it's beyond the container, it's beyond the language. And I will invite you to hear directly, beyond the language, to hear with your soul today, to allow, to make room beyond the container. We are not the body, as Bob used to say. We are in this body, but what flows through us truly connects all of us. And this is the language that I will invite you to speak, to communicate, and to hear it today. So thank you, Donna, thank you, Tim, and thank you, Diego, because you each brought aspects that kind of created the foundation for my talk today. And just to get a sense of where you are, so I'm going to talk about apparently EMDR and Hemi-Synch. And how many of you know about EMDR actually? Okay, good. And how many of you know about Hemi-Synch? Okay, I'm in the right room. And I'm going to start with a story. So there is this soldier who enrolled in the army, and he really wanted to be a good soldier. And he started learning all the ways, all the rules, all the commands of the army and his superiors. And he was so dedicated to become the best soldier he could become. He was committed not to have it his ways, not to listen to himself, but to listen and obey and embody everything that he would learn, that he would be told to do, to become the best soldier he can become. He wasn't very clear what and why he was supposed to fight and go to war, but regardless, he didn't ask many questions, because you know, in the army and in the world, you are taught very early on not to ask too many questions. Just obey. Just do what I tell you to do. And he was working very hard. He was actually becoming one of the best soldiers, until one day something happened. Like something happens perhaps to each of us that actually brought us here. Whether it's when we are 12 or 7, where we saw with Donna's presentation that she said it so beautifully, she coded it so beautifully, we are just outdated children as adults. And something happens, and no matter how hard we try, we cannot go back. And we try, just like Tim was sharing his story when he was 12, we might dedicate the rest of our life to understand, to make sense, and then to share what happened, and to make it visible, to make it known, because we know that what we experienced in that moment or those moments is more real than anything we have learned in any army, in any part of the world. And that, whatever we thought it's reality, and we bought into it, and we tried so hard to be good children, to be good people, to be good at everything, and hunted down constantly of actually not quite making it, not quite being good enough for the world, good enough for the army, in whatever shape and form it was presented to us. So when that something happens, it's shaking us, it's breaking our ground. And this is what happened in our story with the soldier. And suddenly, he developed this very odd behavior. And if any of you is a psychologist in the room, you might see it through that lenses. What he started doing, he would pick up pieces of paper, open them, and then he's reading them. It's like, this is not it, and throwing it out. And he would pick up another piece of paper, read it, this is not it. And another one, read it, this is not it, and throw it out. And he started doing that every day. So his commanders were starting getting worried, like, what's going on? This doesn't look right, and we want only the more apt, perfect soldiers in the army. We don't want any mistakes, we don't want any odd behaviors, abnormal behaviors. Everything has to be by our books. But the soldier kept doing that day by day. So finally, his commander said, okay, this is strange. I have to refer the soldier to the psychologist of the battalion for a very thorough psychological assessment, and the psychologist to decide if he is still fit to be a good soldier, to be in the army, if he can be trusted to listen, to obey all the commands and do what he is meant to do in the army. So he refers him, and the psychologist, after many hours of assessment, some of you might know what that assessment entitles, and finally he decides that actually no, something is odd. He couldn't really put a diagnosis because the DSM didn't really have the name for that particular condition yet, but probably the next edition of DSM is going to cover that as well. And he decided that no, he cannot be trusted to be a good soldier. So he wrote a letter recommending that the soldier would be dismissed from the army. He handed the letter to his commander, who handed the letter to the soldier. So the soldier picks up the letter, reads it, and it's like, oh, this is it! I hope it's funny in every language and I expressed it well. What I want to express through this story is that this story contains, like many others, so much in it. And part of it is the question, why are we here? Why are we here in this world? And also, why are we here at this conference? Why did we all gather to search, to keep seeking from one little piece of paper to another from that? And there are so many. Why? Because we keep searching. And no matter through the course of our life what we have been searching for in that, and we are told the best formulas of how to be good soldiers, good people, good human beings. There are formulas after formulas, and we're supposed to obey all of them, but there are so many to the point where we might have been completely confused, completely lost. And the paradox is that the harder we have been trying to be good, to please everyone, to meet all the standards, to be normal, to be exceptionally above, sparkling above everyone, the harder we worked, the further away we have been. The further away from whom? From what Tim was sharing before, from me, and from what children and Donna studying were sharing so naturally, from me, the one that I was created to be, in the likeness of what created me. And stepping into this world that could be a church or an army or a school or a family or anything, I stepped being me and knowing what I am in truth as I was created to be. And then I was trying so hard to become a good soldier that I kept forgetting about myself. And with our power of creation, being in the likeness of what created us, I started making myself. It's like being a natural flower. And then I learned that what I am, it's not what I'm supposed to be. I'm not enough. I'm not what others want me to be. I'm not. And then I started co-creating with the world, this artificial flower that's supposed to be perfect. And it could never quite make it, because the harder I work to create this artificial flower that's supposed to be perfect, I would forget. I would cover myself with that plastic artificial flower. I would embellish it. I would constantly develop it and improve it to make it perfect in my view, in the world's view. And then I would forget about myself. Not only forget, but every time I would look in the mirror, every time I would interact with somebody that would put the mirror in front of me, I would see something different, something else, and who I am, and this basic question that Donna was asking the children themselves. And it sounds like a sophisticated question, philosophical, and we make theory after theory of that. But what EMDR does is to work with this humanness. EMDR is a therapeutic method. It's a very powerful one, developed by Francine Shapiro, an American psychologist, in 1987. And she had this chance discovery. It's always by chance, right? The true discoveries, they are always by chance, no matter how much we try to mentalize them, to put the pieces together, to create those collages of information and data, just as Tim was sharing, that what is spirituality? What others before me said that is spirituality. And we put all of this, we make this salad of concepts, ideas. And concept is very different, even speaking the same words. It's very different than what is, as is. I might put the water in a different cup or in a different jar, and I think that's the water, just because that's how it's presented. But water is what is, before science discovers it or comes to terms to it. And it's funny with science, because I remember my first lecture of psychology when I entered the program, and the professor said that psychology is the science of the soul. And I was fascinated. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm getting so much more than I thought. And mind you, my background is Romanian. I've been living in Canada for the past 27 years, but I was born and raised in the communist regime in Romania. So I was fortunate to actually have access to study to become a psychologist in Romania, following communist, where it was forbidden before, like it was, I don't know, too dangerous for people to be too aware. So psychology of the soul, of psyche, it's like, wow, that's amazing to openly talk about the soul. Well, there were many, many years of studying psychology and everything where the word soul wasn't mentioned anymore. And it seemed like psychology was trying so hard to be a science, to be recognized as a science, that it forgot its own object of science. So, but the truth is, in each of us, in the child part of us, that we know it, beyond all of the theories, beyond everything, we know that what is, is. So Francine Shapiro, she had this chance discovery, as it was called. And what she realized that through her traditional walk in the park was, while she was struggling some very deep personal problems, as we all do at times, there is not even one person in my personal or, of course, professional life that I met that hasn't had their own share of trauma. And EMDR is a very powerful treatment for trauma. And we might say, oh, no, I didn't. I know everybody else was traumatized, but I had it all right, you know, like I was fortunate. Well, trauma, it's explained not through the event that happens. It's explained, presented through the impact that it has on us. And for one person might be a very terrible thing. At one point we were in Israel with our children in the middle of the war, and they weren't traumatized. Or it might be something that might seem to be so small and little and insignificant, but for that person, especially that child, has a traumatic impact with the same impact, the same that could last for a life. So this powerful therapy, EMDR, it's very different than traditional therapy. It's very different than talk therapy. Talking keeps us in the mind, in this level, in the story. And the more we repeat the story, the more we start to believe it and identify ourselves with it. EMDR, I call it emotional surgery. So it goes straight into the heart, especially the original point of our wounding, and it heals those wounds from the inside. At the core of EMDR, it's what they call the adaptive information processing system. I call it in lay terms the self-healing system, that it's in each of us, just as we have the respiratory circulatory system that we might or might not be aware of the wonderful work that they are doing without our control. And this system, its purpose, as they say, God never gives us more than we can handle, because we can handle so much. We are perfectly equipped to handle everything. And this system, this adaptive information processing system, it works pretty much like, kind of like the digestive system. Its role is to process, to metabolize, to digest the impact of our experiences and integrate them. So just like with digestion, we eat something, it goes through the whole process of digestive system, and in the end, we keep the good things in, the learnings, the insights, what we need to learn from that experience on all levels. Because as they say, we don't learn from our experiences, we learn from our reflection on our experiences. So this reflection, that it's not just in the mind, it's not just analysis or intellectual exercise, it's an embodied processing and reflection. And EMDR beautifully brings what I see as a table with 4 legs. There is the leg of our emotions, and I don't know in many cultures, but where I'm coming from, even from Canada, we are not really taught, educated of how to deal with our thoughts, with our feelings. Body, it's a bit more with medicine, traditional medicines, but if it's not physical, it doesn't exist. If it's a condition that it's reflected, expressed through the body, but they don't have a name or an explanation for it, it's just in your mind. It doesn't exist. Well, these are some of the rules of the army, but we know better now. We see better right now, especially through the programs and what we've been practicing, each of us on our own path of seeing clearly, seeing beyond what we were taught, what was presented to us, the concepts, the learning. So EMDR brings the emotional part, the thoughts. And what happens with the thoughts is not just the thoughts that we have and why we have them, is that each of our experiences, especially those with a very strong emotional impact, they get us trapped in a certain maladaptive learning. We don't see what is as is, we see it through the impact that we experience. And through those experiences, big or small, we learn things about the world, if it's a safe place or not, if it's a good, trustworthy place, if it's a welcoming place or not. We learn about ourselves, about who I am. I'm not good enough. I'm stupid no matter how many degrees I have. I'm not worthy of love. I've done something bad, it's my fault, fear is everywhere. So all of these learnings that are creating these software programs in our mind. And they are unconscious most of the time, but they drive our future, our history basically, our past through these programs creates, they are the puzzle pieces that create our present and our future. So in the present, it's like I'm not seeing what is as is, brand new, with fresh new eyes. What I see is this big history book in front of me with many, many, many pages, and I see through it, but I don't see what is as is in front of me. So EMDR brings the mind, the body as well. There is, you might know this expression in trauma, the body keeps the score. And it's all entrapped in our body. So this table with 4 legs, EMDR traditionally doesn't bring the soul into it. Francine Shapiro also was very dedicated to bring EMDR to the science world, that she didn't want to tame the dragon with the soul part, and it was, EMDR seemed voodoo enough as well, too good to be true. So lots of research, one of most researched psychotherapies up there, because it was too good to be true. So it brings all of them together. I bring the soul as well, because I cannot otherwise, without consciousness, whatever name we give. So what EMDR does, I know I see the graph and I'll have to, I have so much to share, but I didn't mean to share a lot. I meant to share whatever it is, but to be received. And bits and pieces and seeds that each could receive at this time based on what's needed, and that's good enough for me. What EMDR does is it deals with our humanness. Tim was saying that our humanness stays in our way of being, remembering who we are, and also accessing all that is, that consciousness that children define it as love. That unconditional love. This is the key of the state of consciousness of love. Unconditional, no conditions. Not if, then, not because, I don't love you because you are that. The love as a state of being is I am, you are, and there is only love and beyond. So EMDR deals with our humanness on all of these aspects, and what it has in common with many things in common. I think healing, it's a prerequisite for accessing, because it unblocks the way that was created, co-created with the world. It dispels the artificial flower that we've been covering ourselves with, and it heals. It heals. And healing is a prerequisite, absolute prerequisite to everything else, to living in the world and beyond. So EMDR also embodies, again, we are not the body, we are not the thoughts, we are not our emotions, but if we disconnect, if we dissociate in clinical terms from our body, it's also not real. It's something that we create another concept of, maybe another religion, but it's not it, like in the story of the soldier. So EMDR deals with all of this and also expands. I use EMDR for expanding and transcending the levels of consciousness. I will have this workshop this afternoon. And what they also have in common, EMDR, aside from the adaptive information processing system, part of it is what they call the bilateral stimulation. EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Originally, it was done, this bilateral stimulation, to eye movements, but it's done through all the other sensory, it's done through sounds. So the whole principle is left, right, left, right, left, right. And what this bilateral stimulation that in Hemi-Synch could very well be the binaural sounds with the sounds. It's what researchers show is bringing both hemispheres to work together at the same time, and researchers show that it's activating this self-healing system connected to our body, our emotions, and our mind. So EMDR clears out the way. It's not that we have to get somewhere, we have to remove the blockages that have been created, co-created with the world, to be able to see clearly, to see in truth, to be, to return home. My book is called Flying Home. Home. what home, where we truly belong, where we are coming from. So it's a returning, it's a remembrance. Yes, it's an evolutionary becoming process, but primarily to be that authentic, real me, who I am as I was created to be. I need to remove, to unlearn everything that I've learned with the world. So this is what EMDR does. And then Hemi-Synch takes it further. It's like, oh, there are no limits. Bob would say that. The biggest limit is that we think that we are limited. We are not. We are not. So this journey that is very personal for each of us, and in the end, all roads lead to Rome. We are in Italy. They do lead to Rome. But our individual paths are perfectly tailored for each of us. And they contain the healing, and they contain the return to what I am. And then from there, the beingness, the I amness that keeps expanding without limits. I will end here for now, just to make sure that I am in time.